Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. Incredible guests the world over with incredible insights to share with us. Most of our guests have been on some sort of transformative journey that allowed them to give service to others. We've had New York Times international bestsellers, a guest from the Super Soul Sunday show, a White House physician to the US president, healers from all over the globe, all sorts of backgrounds. An Australian actor, Ian Stenlake, if you've ever seen Sea Patrol on Amazon, really phenomenal, fun, exciting guests. That's what this show is about, Angels, Positivity, and Love. And a quick footnote or housekeeping note, we're booked about 300 episodes into November-ish of 2025. So be sure to share, like, comment, and subscribe if you could. Emojis count for comments. We've broken 500,000 visits by people to the channel, but everyone's really shy. This is Angels. It's the universe. It's really big, but it's just about gentleness, kindness, compassion. Speaking of which, we have a guest coming to us from New York, from the Long Island area. He's absolutely fabulous. He's made the rounds on shows like Coast to Coast AM. He's got 2 books out currently. I think you can expect more to come. It's Jacob Cooper, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, author, much more, Reiki master. I think the way I'd like to just sum up Jacob before we have him start speaking is that he's a light for us all, reminding us that there's more to life than just stress, routine, rinse, repeat, the rat race. He wants to help folks remember what their heart is all about and to just live a little more and share that love with others. So, Jacob, thank you very much for coming on Angels, Positivity, and Love.
Oh, wow. What an intro. Thank you. And I'm a big fan of your work, Michael. So thank you for all the work that you do. Your name, Michael, has a very special place in my life for various different reasons, particularly this particular week. So I know we're in the angelic realm right now. Yeah.
Well, this has been a long time in the works, so I am excited to have you here again. You're a well-known name. You've done a lot of speaking engagements, whether it's domestically or elsewhere. Again, you've been a guest on a lot of shows. Can you take us back to childhood and at least briefly recap? I know everyone asks you about your near-death experience as a child. Can you cover any which way you feel is appropriate? Because it's been a long journey and stuff has transformed over time so that your perspective, I think, is even broader now than it once was before.
Yeah, I think in all of life, it's really about the definition of the story. I mean, what I walked into was just the story, but each and every day was the ability to define it. So I wasn't defined by a story, I was able to define it. And 2 books going on, each day is a new perspective on this, but it's going on my 31st year anniversary. This particular month, around this time, 31 years ago, in September is when I had my near-death experience. I was just the age of 3 years old. I went to a playground. At the time, I had pertussis, completely suffocated as a result of whooping cough, which was to this day the most traumatizing, scariest moment of my life. But also, I have a great gift of trauma and the capacity to remember it, to have growth from it, and just to have a greater sense of purpose from some of that pain. But my human breath was taken from me, but I surrendered to the breath of eternity. And that's what allowed my soul to prevail and have a full crossover experience when I went to a playground as just a young boy, climbing a ladder onto a slide of all things with the name Jacob, so we could get into that. But I was able to really see my own guides. I saw hundreds of angels that were floating right above this realm right here. They're all around us. They're right directly in front of me. Awareness of past lives, God, what I would be doing in this life, premonitions, soul family awareness, and more. So it was a profound awakening to all the things that we have around us that sometimes we either forget or maybe we just have our blinders on. But my Lord, we are so much more connected than we could ever imagine. And we are so much more than we could ever imagine. And this near-death experience really allowed myself to remember, who I am, who we all are, infinite, divine, spiritual beings, here, not just in a random occurrence to pay the bills, to have everything leading up to retirement. There's no retirement for the soul. We're always working. The afterlife is, you're continuing to have a mission, and the souls have a purpose. There's an intention, there's an intelligence that goes beyond this. And sometimes life could just feel like random chaos on the surface, but I really learned that there is a really divine intelligence behind all things, including especially the most tumultuous things, even within our life, as I experienced in my near-death experience.
Maybe we can talk about that next, how obstacles are really opportunities for growth. I did want to just mention both your books. We're certainly going to cover them a little bit later in the show. But
Sure.
you've got in 2020 Life After Breath. Both are from Waterside Productions. And then in 2023, uh, Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. And
Mhm.
again, we'll get into those in just a little bit. But you also have 2 degrees from Adelphi University, or an Lcsw, and a Master's of Social Work would be, I think, the latest degree, if I've got that correct.
Yeah, MSW, and I do hypnosis, I do past life regression stuff. But yeah, Delphi, all of my life just comes from visions. I just remember being a kid, and I grew up the town over from Adelphi, but I was just driving by it one summer day, and I just knew instantaneously that's where I would go to school. And I didn't actually plan it, but it happened. And the same thing where I'm living today. I was getting a Reiki session late at night. I was surrounded by these beautiful homes right by a golf course. I'm still living at my parents' house in my early 20s, and a voice told me, "You're going to live here." And I'm like, "You're crazy. Like, I have to win the lottery to be anywhere near here." And right now, I'm living right around the corner, exactly where I got that voice. So, intuition has played a big role in my life, and hopefully, we could find ways to foster that with listeners, because it's amazing what could happen when you're able to tune into the voice of belief versus doubt.
Maybe you can talk to us a little bit more about that. Is it really that a lot of our intuition, the happy stuff, nothing about jumping in someone else's Jag and going 120 miles an hour down the highway? That's probably not an angel, but is a lot of the influences that our own inner guidance voice, is a lot of that really heaven sent, or just the universe speaking with us, unconditional love?
Well, I think the universe just is there to remind us who you are, and what is possible with you, and to reframe some of the low or small perceptions that we have of ourselves. I learned really the universe sees so much more than what we do. They have a broader perspective than our limited perspective. And so many times we inherit a conditional set of belief systems with what we do and who we are. We get a good grade, we feel like we're worthy. We get a bad grade, we feel like we're unworthy. And so there's a very unstable dynamic with our perception of who we are that has to do with the being. But the universe sees our own being. And it's not about the doing, it's about the being. And so I, I think Einstein said it best, where the most important quest or navigational system of our life is our viewpoint on the universe. Is the universe a loving place, ambivalent place, or against us? And, I think near-death experiences just remind people that there is a greater intelligence that goes even beyond our own limitations, and to get beyond the self-aggrandizing belief systems that we know it all, and to surrender to something that might see a little bit more than our limitations are capable of.
So love may actually be the fabric of the universe.
Oh, absolutely. And I love what Wayne Dyer would say, where he would say, you take an orange, you squeeze an orange out, you get orange juice. And if you squeeze all of us out, what's left is just pure, eternal, unconditional love. And that is a thing that the majority of near-death experiencers come by, where there's a reframed version of God that maybe religion did not depict. A God loved us for who we are and not what we do. And a God that wasn't made in man's image, but something just beyond this realm.
Oh, this is awesome. This is super high vibe and smooth. I love this. So, can you talk to us just a little bit about? There's been a big talk about a shift back in 2010, 2011, and now more consciousness awareness available for all. Do you have a way, eloquently, the way you already have answered everything else, to describe the big picture for mankind? We're not giving you a hard question at all. It's an eternal question in a way. But what's going on with this whole, we can be happy now in this moment for no reason whatsoever? We can be a little more aware, a little more gentleness, a little more kindness, a little less thinking.
Well, I mean, certainly the hope is it could be congruent with the way that I have my psychology practice, which is on a micro level, knowing our own history so it's not repeated. And on a collective basis, hopefully we're more aware of patterns that are just continuing to present itself in finding different pathways. And so I think really what we're trying to step into is more so from the me consciousness into the we consciousness. And this has been channeled by my friend Karen Noe, who channeled, Wayne Dyer's teachings when he crossed over. Wayne is a very close influence in my life. We're both Taurians, and I believe he resided a couple minutes from where I live here in Long Island for a bit. Then he was in Boca in Hawaii as well. But Wayne really would speak about the we consciousness, how there's so much congruency with that in the near-death experience, in a sense that NDErs often have what's called a life review, which I've had, which is basically what you do to another, you really do to yourself in a way. And so it's living with that by not waiting to die to really have that awareness of the heavenly mind, but living that mind right here and understanding what we do to another, we do to ourselves. And so, you know, I think there's many different ladders that people are climbing, but the hope is it's less of a corporate, financial, material ladder and more of a spiritual ladder. As the higher you go, the more you can understand and see and live in grace and beauty and flow within your lives. But yeah, there's a massive shift occurring. I mean, I don't remember like in my early college years going to a water cooler and having people talking about astrology or mediums or stuff like that. And now like, when I go to my job, I work in a psych hospital, for my day job, and I'm just noticing wherever I go, like people are talking about this kind of stuff. Or you go into a supermarket and you have like a mindfulness magazine, or I don't know, Tyler Henry's there. It's just like, what the heck is going on? But it's kind of surreal to see how fast things are changing, how long it took, but now it's just starting to click.
And that's another area for you is mindfulness. You've worked that into your practice quite a bit, have you not?
Absolutely. I MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction. Again, there's congruency with what's going on in the macro to the micro. And so within the mental health field, you're noticing a lot of Eastern philosophies infiltrate itself into, evidence-based practice. So I mean, it's fascinating. There's a practice called dialectical behavioral therapy, which, does work, many times with people who might have borderline personality disorder, but not necessarily, but a lot of it is rooted in Eastern approaches, radical acceptances, and finding that space between the stimuli and the response, as Viktor Frankl spoke about, a man's search for meaning. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it is allowing people to come back to their own home, their own foundation, not to be a leaf in water, but to find ways to generate currents. And, that's what we try to do. And so, I mean, I started it working in, a mental health clinic where it was, a lot of lower socioeconomic income participants. And so there was an inclusiveness to it. But some people maybe didn't have the greatest, home situations, or maybe didn't have a home at all. But through mindfulness, they're able to have the breath, they're able to find that sense of belonging and that connectivity to home, which is really about near-death experiences in a nutshell. It's just understanding that this is an experience, but not our home, and home is just a place of awareness and connectivity. So that's a great gift that I've been able to discover, and I try to share that with people.
Oh, brilliant. And a footnote for the audience. Jacob was kind enough to recommend Mark Anthony and Karen Noe as guests. Both have already taped their shows. I'm going to try to get this right. Karen's episode should be coming up just a few weeks later in October, I think, after Jacob's, and Mark Anthony should be in December of 2024. Both have already agreed to come back on the show. They were wonderful. And I think, if I recall, they all blur together. 200 shows have been taped. Karen actually channeled, I think, Wayne Dyer on the air, plus some angels and stuff like that. We'll see if we take a few steps towards the end of the show. And Jacob will certainly, hopefully, have you back on in 2025. What's the one thing that's really been at the forefront, though? Let me do it this way. You are continually evolving. You're paying attention to your own growth and space. What's something new or a new dynamic that you're really appreciative of that maybe wasn't there a decade ago?
That's a good question. Well, as we know, with near-death experiencers, we're driving this road. We know there's no ending, but the moves are what's around the corner, what's around the bend. For myself, I guess the next thing is finding some balance where, at times I'm very just immersed and connected to the other side, but it's really, what I've learned, it's about this side. This is the only opportunity that you could be Michael Andre Ford in the way that you know it. And this is the only, unique window that I could be Jacob Cooper. So it's, really being 2 feet in here while still staying connected. And the full understanding that I'm coming to is that, our afterlife is predicated and influenced what we do in this life. And that's why, when you go to mediumship galleries, like they might be talking about some of their ascension and what they're seeing, but they're also talking about some of the earthly things that they're doing over there that they did over here. So it's really maximizing time here. And a big lesson that I garner from near-death experiencers, including my own, is yeah, time might be, forever over there, but it's a unique window here. And tomorrow is not promised. So just living for today. It's kind of like the Winnie the Pooh thing where Christopher Robin, kind of goes out and brings Winnie with him. It's kind of going on, but the important thing is just to remember to play, how important that is and how seriously we take this life and how valuable it is to have that inner child when we go out in the world, to still keep that with you and to still play and to not lose sight of that. So we could all get caught up in this mission a lot, but sometimes we lose sight of that we're here. We're here to play. We're here to have fun. And having a near-death experience in a playground, I hope, is a great allegory for viewers that we're all children playing in God's playground as our, brothers and sisters keeper, here to have joy, here to make the most of it, to have fun, to not be so serious because we're programmed and conditioned to constantly run away from our child. Each year we're told to mature, to move past that, to move on, and, to not recognize that you're okay just as is. It's just about being a stronger and broader expression of what is already there and allowing yourself to be who you are and not running away from yourself to become something else that you're not. Yeah.
In a little bit, we're going to ask you for maybe some direct encounters in the last, I don't know, 10 or 20 years. That stranger with sparkly eyes, you turned around, they're gone, but they said just what you needed to hear. I'm going to blow you some lit sage first a little early because you mentioned all that, and maybe put up a photo of an angel named Joy so we can get a topic from her for later as well. Here's the sage. I'm just lighting some sage. Folks at home have
I love it. This is most unique podcast I've ever been on in my life. I love it.
And thank you for saying that. I try, it's like tiptoeing a was it a high wire balance beam act, whatever that's called, between two buildings, because you just don't know with every guest. There's so many sensitivities, and what you said for the whole early part of the show is exactly what it's about. Like love,
Yeah.
have fun, let go. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
here's the sage at home. People just, I've only got one bit of rule of structure. Breathe a lot through the mouth is unofficially the rule. Ask the universe angels to make it nice, get you out of your head into your heart. Smell some sage. But if you're crazy or good at this or want to go for broke, ask for some flowers and ask for Maui. Wowie Maui, where Wayne Dyer ended up living.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Are you getting some sage from Texas to Long Island?
Oh, we're feeling it. We're feeling it.
And are you getting
Um,
any flowers? If you have to close your eyes to shift it a little, you can do that. Ask your angels for flowers. And then what are you getting for flowers? We've had a lot of South Africans lately get protea, something that starts with a Z, but it's bird of paradise. I looked it up.
I'm really bad with flowers, and my dad would not be happy with me because my dad has a green thumb, but it's something very yellow. Is it a tulip, maybe? Something like that.
Maybe.
So,
Well, that's awesome. And at home, you can play this over again. A lot of the guests do this. Just own it. I think it's Jacob's tone, message, modality, the way he rolls. It's smooth. You feel good. So that's all you have to tap is his voice and just trust that you can catch. You don't even have to light anything. Just ask
mm,
the universe for flowers and you'll freak out when you start to smell flowers for no reason. Okay.
you you don't you don't you don't have to roll anything when you listen to my voice. No.
Uh, your voice is it's steady and it's just enjoyable. So
Well,
here's
thank you.
Joy. Just get a topic from her, but if you don't mind quietly getting a compliment, get a whoosh down the back as well and say, got it when you got anything from her. But then get a topic that's right up your alley. You talk about it all the time. And then if you launch into that, but I bought you stall time for some of those direct experiences with the universe. It could be anything.
Mm,
And at home, people could put their hand out, treat her like a fireplace, feel vibration on your hand, get a whoosh down your back, yummy in the tummy. No limits is no limits. And I'll do Yoda's voice just to make everyone laugh. Do, do not. There is no try. And his eyes were shut, so I got away with that. Okay, what'd you get for a topic from Joy? Did you get a whoosh and a little private compliment or a hand on the shoulder? You can get anything you need. What's the topic she had for you?
Self-love is a big one. That's a big topic at hand, and that's what came to me. and the significance of self-love, how important that is these days, and what that can do for ourselves and the world around us. You know, how important that is. It's not just some new age talking point or, that is, it's so important, the embodiment and the practice of it and the impact that it could have in the world around us. You know,
Jacob, you got to break this down more because I would argue that people are already doing self love in an unconscious way daily. They just don't give themselves credit for it. Can you go through a little bit more of the dynamics, how it's already just here and now, kind of the Wayne Dyer meets? Um,
yeah. Well, I think, and I do this sometimes myself, there's a high degree of intellectualization, about all topics, including self-love, but love, is not through the intellect or the head, it's through the heart. And, I think for ourselves, self-love isn't like, all right, I love myself when I look this way, or the scale says a certain number, or, you know, a conditional um, circumstance. It's loving ourselves even, when people may not be giving at us, when others might turn their backs on us. We've all been hurt, betrayed. Others just might have mistreated us. And sometimes we start to believe that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy of that there's something inherently wrong with us. But self-love is really about the trust in who we are and the intelligence that's with us. You know, for instance, I'll take a concept that, coincides, that goes against self-love, which is self-doubt. And so when you break down self-doubt, first of all, you're you're doubting not just the self, but you're doubting the intelligence that created you and all the people that believed in you. So it's not just self-doubt, it's doubting all things that created you to be. And so that's really where faith and knowing comes in, to really have that trust with that creative force and that divine spark within. And the more love that you feel, that you radiate, that you're able to not only focus in the light, but put the light in the darkness, that turns into how you're able to perceive others that come into your path. And then when others come into your path and they feel more love in you, without you even saying anything, because this goes beyond words, they're able to start to feel that, or at least that comes into their awareness to practice in their lives. And certainly we've been around people who feel like they're editing us or they're judging us or, stuff like that. And as Don Miguel Ruiz says in the Four Agreements, don't take it personally. It's more of a projection on how they treat themselves as to how they treat another. And so understanding that we consciousness, when you're able to have this unconditional love to yourself, it translates itself to the collective. So in other words, thinking globally by acting locally in a way, you know. So
I've got a
that's what
quote.
I'll say.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Your unconscious mind speaks a language people can hear even when your conscious mind has not spoken yet.
Oh
So if
yeah.
you're rolling in love, people feel love from really far away. Think of Scrooge, Christmas Carol, start of the story. Everyone agrees he's a jerk, dental floss for a connection to life. But 79 pages later at the end, you'd cross the street to go have a conversation with old man Scrooge. Um,
Yeah.
a joy bringer and full of love and life. Um, okay, if you had a mantra for us that you have to say 3 times on air right now, and this is just, it's the t-shirt thing. It could be the back of the t-shirt too, if it's longer than a few words. What's like the most important point or one of the top 5 from Jacob Cooper to us all, to mankind? But if you don't mind repeating it 3 times, we've never done that in 200 shows. But I just know the way your vibration goes, this is big. So what's the mantra you want to leave us with, that you would say 3 times on the show?
There's two mantras that I have. One I've really learned from Neil Donald Walsh in regarding to God, which is, you got me all wrong. You know, that was when he was on the Matt Lauer show and Matt asked him about, God. And he said, what's one message that you have that people need to know about God? And his answer, right on broad daylight, at the time with Matt Lauer, and he was doing the date, was it like the morning show, whatever, you got me all wrong. But for myself, really, it's, you are perfect just as you are. You are perfect just as you are. Which is so different than what we've been taught. We've been constantly broadcasted this message that more is better, buy this, have more of this. And, that really coincides with Carl Jung in the two phases of life, where the morning of life, is really about the ego. It's about, this program that we've had where more is better and getting, all those accolades, the degrees, all these degrees of influence. And, the afternoon of life is really about being being in love with your own self and being in the moment and, taking it easy, falling in love with the world around you and not needing something to feel something, but connecting to love itself without a reason. It's about presence, not about avoiding each moment and constantly escapism of it. So, yeah, I think more people need to get into the afternoons of their lives, as Jung would talk about, and just in a state of awareness, in a state of being, um, and recognizing you're enough just as you are. That's what we need to do. Then life doesn't become a sense of self-betrayal, running away from it, but embodiment of that part of you and spreading the real you out instead of running away from it.
And then for an experience you can't really explain, or you can, looking back,
Mm.
what's one moment that you're like, I know the universe was looking out for me or something? Do you have one of those that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to like pinpoint, but certainly when I'm driving and like I'm about to make a turn and something tells me not to, but I would say like for me, like I feel my guides most strongly, in situations of conflict. I mean, there was one moment where, um, I had a turbulent, high school experience for many different reasons, but there was a moment where, like, a principal accused me of talking in front of the whole school, and he had a megaphone, and I was very overweight at the time. I had, I was just emotionally eating, and I was a trauma victim through my NDE. I was on a lot of psychotropic medications for my anxiety and depression, stuff like that. So, but I was a young kid, and he called me out in front of the whole school on a big megaphone, and I had to walk in front of everyone on the field, and I felt just such a sense of shame and embarrassment. At that moment, I felt both of my guides just giving me the message of the illusion of this reality, how everything comes to pass like an ocean wave. And it was just a moment where I felt eternity. I'm like, this is a joke. Like this moment, I'm not going to think twice about it. Years from now, it will pass. So he sat me down in the office and I was just smiling the whole time. He's like, why are you smiling or happy? I wasn't mad at him. And people are coming to me. I'm like, this reality is not what we've seen. We hold on so much to this moment, but it's so fleeting. And letting go of these struggle and pain, because that's temporary. And eventually we know the truth that all roads come to a good ending, and it leads to a good place. So no matter what your turn is, eventually it leads to something good. And that allowed me to transcend pain in my life from that moment, and when I did feel it, that's when mindfulness came in. It's just to really trust no matter what you're faced, eventually, you'll find your stasis. You'll find your evenness no matter what. So yeah, I mean the guides I feel in moments of, human crisis, they just remind me of reality and how pain comes down to the nothingness that it was created from, and only love is there at the end of the day. And so like again, you have a soft ending, there is no ending. Those rough corners become easier to navigate when they, come up on the horizon. So it sounds, more mundane, but I think for viewers it's so important because we all have those dark moments of the soul, those difficult moments. But much like my near-death experience, it just reminds us of the impermanence of all things here, especially pain.
And I'm going to read a quote before we transition to the next part of the show. In the end, love is what shows us life in different colors.
Love is what shows us light. I love it. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because near-death experiencers, they're often asked like describe the other side, and they'll try to do colors. But what researchers are finding is it's difficult. It's a very difficult task for near-death experiencers to really describe colors, and you have to ask yourself why. Because the colors that we have are really based on the spectrum of the sun. When you're on the other side, the colors are really unlimited by the colors of love, which is the divine. And so it's a different spectrum of colors. So when you think of God, you think of light. you think of love, you think of light, you think of colors, because that's really the spectrum of the light on the other side, which is the colors emanated from God, from love. So I love that.
And I love your answers today. This is fun. And people will do a lightning round like it's a game show very quickly, not to rush it, but
Yeah,
three or four angels, Carl Jung and Geronimo, unconditional love, older Geronimo,
yeah,
gentle, amazing. We'll show some light, but you can get extra dimensional colors. People see colors. Colorblind people have seen colors. People can see or
yeah,
light, but there are colors that I don't even know how you describe it, but it's pretty and people like it. And so
yeah.
you're right on about that. Here's Joy. If you want to catch one thing for us all, that's a reminder that she's got. Again, get some whooshes up and down your back and a bravo. Hear angels singing, champagne corks popping, because I think you're right on today. And what are you getting from Joy for all of us?
Not only just to remember who you are, but remember how much we have around us. Sometimes there's an association with the monopolization of spirituality in life, where we'll associate, prominent figures and having them as more slices of the pie, and for us, just get breadcrumbs that we're not worthy. And to recognize, no matter how ordinary we do see ourselves, we're all extraordinary, and how everyone has so much more around them than what sometimes we forget. And, working in the mental health field, there's a big, epidemic of loneliness, that we're seeing. Obviously, that's really intensified since, 2020 in many ways. But to just understand the illusion of it, how, you know, Wayne would say, if you like the person you're living with, you can't be alone. But if you remember who's around you, how could you ever be alone on this journey? And recognizing there are so many forces at hand that we just don't see, and we have so many people behind us in our corners. We have a whole cheerleading squad and then some within, all steps of our journey. So, walking in harmony with that is very important. And I think that will really allow people to just, walk this path a little easier because, yeah, there is a big correlationship with feeling connected, and not feeling isolated in our status. And if we're feeling very alone, depression comes, anxiety comes, that it is spirituality has a big correlation with our mental health status. So I think that's important to be cognizant of.
Archangel Michael next, but I'm going to put up a couple different photos. We'll settle on. There's no
Sure.
about the photos, but four archangels here: Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel,
Well,
uh, and Michael are in there, and then more archangels over the home one time, taken 10 years ago. But
yeah.
here's a up close and personal. We can just use this one. Go ahead and just ask a private question, get an answer, get a hug. And folks at home, you can put your hand out and feel the vibe if you want, or just close your eyes and see light on your eyelids. There's no one way about any of this. And then when you're ready, if he has a reminder for us all, if you could do what you just did before.
So a lot of it is for viewers. Just, this relates to how do we connect? Um, and so again, really, in our world, we're taught that the more that we have, the more that we are. But connection in the spirit realm is the less barriers that we have. The lighter we become, the more we can see and hear. So really, it's paradoxical with how this stuff works, where it's really not about pumping ourselves up and, all this stuff. Really, people talk about raising vibrations, and sure, but you have to lower the brainwave vibrations to really enhance your spiritual vibrations. And so, as Thich Nhat Hanh and all the spiritual masters would say, the quieter you become, the more you could see, hear, and feel. So, yeah, less is more in a sense. Getting out of your own way is very important, which is so different than what we've been taught. So, yeah,
Less is more or less. And I got another angel for you, Charlotte. She's everybody's favorite school teacher from third form. If you're in Canada watching right now, hit the subscribe button, like, share, comment, and emojis count. If you're shy, I think Jacob's rocking this. Let's see some emojis, please, if I can be pushy as a show host. Okay, what's Charlotte got for you? And if you want to catch an incense from ancient Egypt or just somewhere cool, India, or one of those incenses that are super fancy that you like,
Hmm.
but you haven't lit anything. That's the thing. She knows what will float your boat.
Mm.
What are you getting in the air, and what are you getting from Charlotte for all of us?
But she's sending me a lot of patchouli and clove, which are my favorite blends that I wear. Even though I'm burning intense amber incense at the moment, I'm getting a patchouli and clove vibe. But just kind of like the picture, Charlotte was really talking about the globe. And sometimes we have, um, we have in our lives just almost territorial existences. We get very caught up in sometimes our cultures and where we live and our demographics. And certainly there is a part of the soul that honors where we live and our own, maybe religious background. But what's important is to not be too trapped, in that and to see past that and to have universality, and to really see the interconnected wovenness that, most people do have, which is wanting of the same things and just different styles of things. And so not being too caught up or too tied into what we're doing as to block us from what other people are doing and to find the universality and to understand oneness does not mean sameness. That you could have differences and still feel that one, common tie and that, diversity is our biggest strength. So, yeah, I think it's really about universality, to me is what the message is what I'm getting. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Oh,
yeah.
it totally made sense. It was awesome. I got one more angel before we do Carl Jung, Geronimo. And this one, I got to do an explanation. If people want to check out the August 30th, 2024 show, Dr. Karen Wyatt, physician, retired, she mentions in the show how when she was 8, 9, 10 years old, waking up as a little girl in bed and seeing an angel all in white, Hallmark angel, her guardian angel, my guardian angel, 80,000 of us as guardian angel men, seeing her at the foot of the bed and knowing she wanted to be a doctor. And here she is giving the interview after she's retired as a physician. She's coming back on the show. Don't miss that episode. People can meet angels in full on human form, so be sure to just put it to
Mhm,
the universe. You don't have to worry about the details. You just have to know how to ask, which is nothing more than
mhm.
a request through the heart. So here's Min, light waves of energy and water, Mother Hawaii for some. Just catch ocean that you know can't be out the back door. And what does she have for all of us? Or what does she, if you want to share two compliments you get from her, but one you're busted, you got to share it out loud.
Well, she's giving me first and foremost like a Virgo kind of energy where it's like, orderly, discipline. Obviously if she's of white light, that's a great power, great responsibility. So I think for viewers, it's really about being cognizant of what we do allow and sometimes love, we have to have certain boundaries. And sometimes you're on the light, sometimes you have blind spots where you might miss people who take advantage. So again, being in the light, but also objective and rational, is important. And being our own gatekeepers, so I think it's really, yes, having this light, but also being disciplined with it, to a degree, and being responsible of it, of that great power. So, that's just kind of like the first impressions that I'm getting is just the concept of self-awareness, self-empowerment. But regarding compliments, it's, yeah, I mean, sometimes when people are disciplined with us, they see the potential, they see who we really are. And so they're kind of trying to get us to remind ourselves to see that same beauty that they see in ourselves too, while also, in order to really, get to that place, we have to really be aware and set up our own boundaries so that we continue to really hone in on our real true connection.
I'm going to add know thyself and throw my own compliment out. I'm just enjoying hearing you speak. And I think it's a big part of it is you really know yourself and you're coming from your heart when you're speaking with us. So thank you in advance. That was four angels. Very quickly, we're not rushing Carl Jung. I almost forgot his name, but I have an incredible photo for you. Get some humor and a reminder that you're just like shaking your head on. He's a
Yeah.
conditional love spirit guide for us all. Anybody can do this. Just leave your eyes on him, let him speak. Close your eyes if you have to. What do you get from, or what are you getting from Carl Jung?
Mm. All I'm just seeing is a massive library with many different floors to it. And, obviously speaks to the collective unconscious that he spoke about. Um, and just reminding ourselves how we just have a connection to so much more just beyond our own analytical mind in our brains, and how we have so much reference to utilize from, that the trajectory of finding this information is so different than maybe what we've been exposed to in our own regurgitation system, as some call the education system. But through, much like a parachute, when the mind is open, it could really work its best in opening ourselves up to the collective unconscious and how that could impact our lives and how we could really pull and draw creativity, wisdom, insight that's just flowing through us. And, when we think of the most prominent intuitives that's ever lived on American soil, I think Carl Jung was certainly one of them, but I think of Casey, of just being an ordinary but extraordinary connection, ordinary man, extraordinary connection. And so again, we just have to get out of our own way and open ourselves up, to the greatness that we have inside of us and the references that we could draw upon that each person has access to. Um, you know, each person has their own Verizon 5 bar capacity. We're not on, lower level wireless. Each person has the ability to connect. You just have to strengthen that muscle, listen to it more, and that could be a very influential component in our everyday life.
Final figure, Geronimo, older Geronimo, unconditional love, spirit guide. He's action, 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 dry wit, not proper and formal when he speaks. It's more like, yeah, Nat, you already know the answer. Just do it. Here he is, but people can put on a seatbelt if they're super intuitive. It could be a roller coaster one or Formula One because you're going to feel this one. He's a sweetie, a big tiger, but a kitten in the heart. And you can
Mm,
catch one of those 50 Native American scents in the air. We're not lighting sage, but you could smell tobacco, sweetgrass, desert piñol, pine, juniper. You get the idea.
mm, wow.
He comes in like a lightning bolt.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I do like what he's showing me. Yeah.
What are you getting?
Two images. One is of a buffalo, which buffaloes are very interesting. Buffaloes, you know, obviously, I'm sure, prominent Native American tradition, but buffaloes are one of the animals that doesn't go away from the storm when it happens, it runs towards it. So no matter what is happening in your life, like just, go through it, whether that's grief, whether that's, sadness, the way out is through. And that's congruent with the work that I do in mental health. And obviously, I'm seeing a lot of horses. And for me, I was born in the year of the horse, 1990, the metal horse, so that corresponds to the sign of Gemini, I believe. But really, it's just kind of like going with the flow, moving forward, having this force to just propel itself forward and just, horsepower, right? You think of, just it's a force, it's a power. But there's also a softness to this man too, where there's also like an image of Rip Van Winkle where you're just kind of waking up from a dream in a way under the tree. So it's like wake out of the dream and get into your own power.
Okay, in a little bit, you're going to be wrapping us up. You're basically a super seasoned both guest, show host, and so on, speaking everywhere on stage and stuff like that. Super eloquent. So you are going to wrap us up in just a minute. I'm buying you a little bit of time. I am going to do the aura thing, seeing energy, consciousness, unconditional love, the force from Star Wars, whatever you want to call it, that was out of Celestine Prophecy, the movie. They did it this way. But as Sue Frederick said on the show in the 70s, they were already doing it this way before the movie existed. And I know in India they do it this way. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can see light on your dog, the trees. You almost have to have a coconut hit you in the head to let go of your thinking and what you know. And I'd argue you're already seeing it and acting that way all the time. Supermarket, when you go to pick up the milk, but two men are arguing, your brain says, oh, I'll come back in a little bit. Let me go get the vegetables anyhow. Just you're feeling and seeing all this energy, but the brain wants to lock you down tight, shut tight like
Mhm.
an oyster. So here's one of those backgrounds. Blue sky is number one. A shut off TV works as well. Give yourself permission to let go and just see what you can see. We did this before the show, so we know we can do this. Plus, we're talking to a Reiki master here who also sees auras from time to time. You'll see what you want to see, but I get to tell a dad joke, which I don't think I've done on the show. So where in a hospital is the worst place to play hide and seek? Where? Answer, in the ICU. And as you're laughing, you're letting go. What do you see as a filament of light between my fingers, Jacob?
It looks to me like a blue-green color that's coming in. So yeah, that's interesting. And then, is it's changing as time is going on. I'm getting blue-green and a little bit of white coming in too. So
And
yeah,
ask
that's
for a buffalo flower, some sort of object that's made out of light, but it's totally angels, like Michael, Joy, Min, even Carl Jung kicking it in a little bit. Are you getting anything else? And that's a little bit of pressure, so you get one more dad joke. Uh, Santa's reindeer, Blitzen dance are just those two. Why do they drink so much coffee? Because they're Santa's Starbucks.
mm, just getting a lot of forest energy right now. So that is just kind of where I'm at. It's like a beautiful forest that I'm seeing. And when I'm seeing the forest, I'm seeing trees, and what does trees represent? It's rooted in the depths of its being and its essence, but also its canopies goes up to the heavens, and its light shimmers through, the branches, and that's an allegory for who we are. We're connected to this earth. We have this brilliant light shining through us in our life and hopefully in our surroundings. So,
This has been an exquisite interview. I'm giving you the highest accolades I can give on air. I have loved this. People, you have to hit the like button, comment, share something. What's been the most resonating moment? If you got an experience, you can share that if you want. We do have people who do that. I'm going to read one last very fun, gentle
mm,
statement. And then if you could you wrap up the show for us? This came from Angels, and it's super gentle. And I think it's been a big theme of the show for what you've been sharing with us.
mm,
Sometimes the person next to you or a stranger just needs validation via love and compassion. A smile changes any moment. So too does laughter or a few kind words. Be compassion to all. Do it.
yeah, I love it. So many people try to intellectualize life, and to me, it's about the embodiment of all these principles, the embodiment of God. What is God? God is love. And so, instead of learning about it, studying, I think that's great. But when we embody it, that's when we really make a difference and we bring heaven, onto this earth. And it's just through our light, through our spark that we're making, that difference. So it's not through the ego or speaking in front of thousands of people, though that's one way to reach people. But again, it's just through our presence and through our frequency that we're able to make, these types of changes, most strongly. People are a lot more intuitive than what we think, as we've discussed. So yeah.
Uh, I did forget one thing, and we'll take 5 seconds on this. But just ask Archangel Michael if you got a thumbs up. I'm going to put my hand up in Texas. You put your hand up on Long Island, and only our highest vibe, not the bill paying side of the brain. Love and above. We'll feel the vibe, and I'll whoosh you rainbow light. It's really angels. We're going to blame angels. Don't blame Canada.
Okay.
But here's my hand. Tell us what you're feeling. Just, sparkle, vibe, something. We've gotten a lot of good answers. And I better start breathing. No more show host. And what are you feeling?
Just the first two images that come into my mind is our stars in a night sky, as well as a violet light that's coming down to the tops of our heads like a shower. And just, yeah, stars to me represent of how we are all the light in the dark, and each person has a lot more, each person is so much more impactful in the surroundings than they could ever imagine, and how without them, the universe is just not the same. And so I think through connecting to our light, that's our responsibility in all walks that we do, as well as allowing yourself to tune in as needed to this beautiful violet light that could pour itself down throughout your head and cleanse ourselves and just protect and surround ourselves when we do remember who we are and connect to this beautiful power and responsibility.
I'm going to whoosh with my hand a little bit of rainbow light. Again, angels. So a lot of love. Feel what you can feel, and that'll be the final bit. Here comes just one whoosh.
Uh, uh,
And are you getting that on the front, the back, all around?
it's pure Maui energy, Michael.
And
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
say it. I didn't get any credit, but I say it on all the other shows. I blew in the microphone up top, and I always say catch a Hawaiian breeze. I've been a little shy on this show, but you wouldn't notice, hopefully. But I didn't say Maui. I get no credit on this one. But if anyone's watched the other shows, shoot, I will do Wayne Dyer as a final figure. And you, Yeah, Wayne's fun. Here's a very fun photo. What's a final bit of fun and love and light and a reminder to share love always? Here's Wayne, and you'll close us out with a Wayne die or something.
Hmm.
What'd you get?
Relax, be gentle on yourself, enjoy the ride, and just remember who you are, what we're connected to, and how beautiful this life is and how beautiful you all are. I love you all. That's all
Okay.
I got.
Jacob Cooper, that was plenty. I mean, I'm not going to get teary-eyed. This has been an awesome show. I have to thank you for being a guest of Angels Positivity and Love. You're marvelous.
Likewise, thank you so much, Michael. An honor to be here. Uh,
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thank you.